officially. Okay, so welcome to Reimagining Rural. My name is Jennifer Anderson. While we just explained this a little bit, so while we wait to get started, please visit amongst your neighbors at your local site and share in the chat box. What's your greatest hope for the future of your community? So I am an associate specialist with the MSU Extension Community Vitality program, and I will be your session moderator for this evening. Tara is one of our presenters. We are so thrilled to have 11 communities joining us for this go around. This is the 4th time we have offered this series, and it is so much fun to see so many communities across the state participating in this great program. Before we jump into the program, we have a few items to share. First, we want to shout out to our sponsors. If you can see those down at the bottom of the screen. This program would not be possible without the generous support of the Montana Department of Commerce, who gave us some seed money to be able to do this program, this go around, and have the speakers that we do. And our great friends at Montana Community Foundation, who have been with us since we started this venture. We truly would not be able to do this without either of them go around, but certainly without Montana Community Foundation supporting us throughout since we started this in about 2019, 2020. So speaking of MCF, we have one announcement that we want to make before we go ahead and get started. We got the go ahead from MCF to announce this evening that there will be some grant funds available after the series is completed through Montana Community Foundation. Those will range between $500 and $1,700. So as you go through the series, you can be mindful and thinking about opportunities or projects that you would like to take on that might fit into that grant opportunity. And again, just another quick shout out to Montana Community Foundation for continuing to support this program. We appreciate you. All right, let's see how my tech goes here. All right, so there's a few things that we wanted to start off with as when we were doing the tech test. So our local, the folks that you have who are your local facilitators, many of them got on earlier this week or last week and did a tech test with us. And so we wanted to make sure that we just shared a little bit of background information about Reimagining Rural. So we believe Montana small towns are one of the many characteristics that make Montana a great place to call home. When we started in about 2019, we recognized that not much was being done in rural community vitality, and we felt a great need and desire to change that. And so the outcome of that effort was Reimagining Rural. We aim to, as a project, as Reimagining Rural, because there's different pieces to it, we aim to inspire rural people to reimagine their community. We aim to embrace different perspectives, individuals, and ideas. We aim to connect through shared hopes, dreams, and experiences. And lastly, we aim to create positive change. Your community is worth it, and we hope that once you go through this series, you will see that too, and be able to create some positive things happening in your town. Okay, so very quickly, some logistics and the agenda for those who like to see these things. You all should have gotten a program agenda with your packet, and your facilitator should have handed that out so you know exactly what we're going to talk about tonight, and it has times on it for those folks who like to stay in tune with the time. We're going to try to stay closely to that as much as we possibly can. So program logistics. Skylar did put in her phone number, her contact information. She is the program manager for the MSU Community Vitality program. So if you have any problems getting on or connecting tonight, or something happens as we're going through this, please contact Skylar. There's her email and her phone number there. Might want to write that down and contact her directly. She will be able to help you as best as we possibly can. So a little bit of the agenda, program introductions. We do not have a recap from the previous session since this is our first, but when we get into session 2, we will recap this session. We have featured speakers each session. We have a main speaker and then also a community success story. Then we will pause our whole statewide conversation and we will turn it over to you to the local conversations, and your facilitators will step in and they will host a local conversation. Then we will come back. We will have a summary, a statewide summary, and a wrap up and a preview of the upcoming session. So with that, we love questions and input. Please use the chat box to share during the featured speakers. And also, I switched my page, my little cheat notes here. Please share in the chat box during the featured speakers, because we do love to have input. We will work to respond and answer as best as we can throughout the evening. Please, please, please remember to mute yourself, and don't be offended if Skylar mutes you. She's a co-facilitator tonight, and she has that control. So those are a few things to keep in mind as we're going through this. So not to take up any more time, because we have some great speakers tonight. So first up is Tara Mastel, and she is program lead for our Community Vitality program, and she is going to talk about how rural is changing, not dying. And then she is going to turn it directly over to Teresa Dumit from the Roundup Community Partners. And if you're not following Roundup, you should be, because man alive, as a small town, they have a lot of things going on, and they have seen some tremendous success here lately. And she is going to walk us through the projects that they've been working on, and how they got to this place. So if there's not any questions, I am going to stop sharing. I'm going to turn it over to Tara for our first presenter tonight. Once again, we are so thrilled that you all are here, that you are joining with us. Share in the chat box, call Skylar or text Skylar if you have technical questions. And we will, I'll see you after the speakers.
Great.
Tara, it's all yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here. It's great to be able to talk with everyone. Very excited. Okay, does that look okay? You guys see the slide? Okay, good deal. I better move myself out of the way. Okay, great. Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. It's just so fun to see all the communities joining in and coming out on this, well, it's not terribly cold, but a cold Monday in January. Glad to see you here, because you could have stayed home. But we're glad you came out, because Reimagining Rural really is a celebration of small towns. It's our small communities that we're celebrating, because we don't often get to celebrate them enough, because so much of the attention gets put on, so much of the limelight gets put on some of the really amazing things that happen in our big towns in our state. And small towns are kind of misunderstood a little bit and overshadowed. So Reimagining Rural is just a complete dedication to rural places, and it's been really fun to host these events over the last 4 years. We put rural front and center, and we focus on the great things that are happening in rural, which is really unique. If you think about it, whenever you hear something about rural in the media, most often it's kind of not good. It's not very good. It's negative, and it's a little bit of a downer typically. I had to chuckle yesterday. I was listening to the news, and there was some story about people, even our hearing is worse in rural. Like, everything seems to be worse in rural. Even our hearing is worse than the population as a whole. But and it's not just the news. We do talk kind of negatively ourselves about rural. If you think about it, even our own language about rural tends to be a little bit on the negative side. We say, you're not from here unless you're born here. Why the streets roll up at 5, nothing ever happens here, or there's nothing to do here, we're in the middle of nowhere, I'm never going to be able to live here, I'm not going to be able to afford a house, or really bad stuff we say about our rural towns. And so just putting that forward to say, let's be aware of that and think about that, because what would the world be like if we only sung the praises of our rural communities, because we all live there and we all love them. But I do want to acknowledge that when we live in a small town, especially if you've lived there for a long time, it is a little bit hard to see past the things that you have lost. You might not have a Little League anymore. You might not have your hardware store. There might be a shift in the culture of your town from how it used to be. So there are, I don't want to just completely Pollyanna-ish. There's some great things happening, there's some hard things happening, but even so, we're here and we love our small towns. We're here to talk and see how we can make them better. And we're going to celebrate the good things because we know from hosting, now we've done this three years virtually and 2 years in person. We know from hosting Reimagining Rural all these years that there's a lot of power in hearing positive things about rural. When people hear things that are good about our small towns, it really changes how they see their town. It expands what they think is possible for their town. We have seen it happen. It raises the bar and it raises the ceiling for what people think they can accomplish in their town. And even just hearing a little bit more about some of the negative stuff that's happening helps put it all in context, because there are some down things happening. But when we understand, it helps to kind of put it in context and not to think that that our town is dying. Okay, I'm going to ask you to put something in the chat again here, because I really want to see what you have to say here. Here's the question for you. What is a good thing that has happened in your town lately? What's a good thing, a positive thing that you have seen happen in your town that you're just super excited about, that you love, that you're proud of? Love to see you. So people in the room, just kind of holler out, and whoever's at the computer, just type that into the chat. You can have multiple things in there. Type your responses in. I'm curious to see some of the great things that we have happening all across the state of Montana. The CYA daycare, that sounds pretty amazing, Shelby. And Shelby Jones Dozier is from Shodo. Short line. Okay, I need to know about that. The band shell, that's also in Shodo. FFA chapter started in Winnett. Oh, that's amazing. Rebranding project in Forsyth. Main Street sculpture installation, that's in Roundup. Diving board at the pool, okay. The community's coming together in Lima Dell. Business reopened. Revitalized farmers market. Cut bank first Fridays. Downtown building facade. Community center. Farmers market. Senior dinner and gatherings. Ooh, that sounds pretty great too. Ennis, we have a successful speech. I think that was speech and drama. Yep. In Sweetgrass, we got the Sweetgrass Fest and Big Timber Rodeo, Art Festival in West Yellowstone, Community Investment Program in Miles City. Great. A new daycare center, that's pretty great in Boulder. Support for abuse prevention. Okay, we got some really great stuff, and I love to see it. And we are going to share this and celebrate that going forward. And I love it. It keeps going. Got a dog park in Boulder. I love it. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, let's keep on going here. So we got a lot of great things, and I wonder, looking at all those things, how many of those things do you think, what percentage are driven by volunteers? And I bet you money there's a lot of them that are, because let's face it, our small towns are run by volunteers. Our small towns are small by nature, by design. Our organizations are small too. We don't always have staff. So volunteers are running everything, as you know. Volunteers provide so many of our essential services in our town. The food bank, like the EMS, the fire department here, our planning board, our mosquito board, city council, all the things. In addition to those essential services, volunteers are the ones that make up all the extra things that make our towns really great places to live, like the parades, the rodeos, the music festivals, the flower baskets, like you see here in this slide. That is from Warden. But the challenging thing is that, oh dear, what have we got here? The thing is that also rural is run by those that show up. So what does the future hold for our small towns? It depends on what decisions are made in our organizations. And those decisions are made by the people that show up, the ones that are sitting in the audience in the public meetings, going to the chamber, the town council, the planning meetings. Those are the people that are making things happen. But the challenging thing is that volunteers are running about everything we've got in our small towns, but they are really challenged. So I've got this is a slide here from our friend Ben Winchester, who has been, his work has really shaped Reimagining Rural from the very beginning. This is from 2010. We don't have the 2020 data because there are some challenges with some of the rural data in the 2020. So we're still kind of looking at 2010 to give us a sense about this. But rural volunteers are the lifeblood of rural, but we are challenged, especially in Montana. We don't have enough of them because we have a relatively low population in Montana and we have a relatively high number of organizations that need leaders. So we're kind of crunched. And Ben Winchester did a study for us on the leadership demand that we have in our state. And he found that in Montana, we have the second highest leadership demand in the whole country behind North Dakota. You calculate leadership demand by looking at the number of total adults in a state or in a county. So say in your county, look at the total number of adults, and then in your county, look at all the organizations that need some kind of a leader. And what Ben used as kind of a conservative estimate is just looking at board members, the number of board members that are needed in your government and your nonprofit organizations. And Skylar has a link for this report, and you can look up for your community what those numbers are. And it's a little bit shocking. For the state as a whole, 1 in every 13 adults needs to hold some kind of a leadership position. And this does not include the burger flippers, the ticket takers, the casual volunteers. It includes the volunteers that are holding a leadership position. So 1 in every 13 adults in the state of Montana. And I've got the numbers for your counties in particular here. In Sweetgrass County, 1 in every 11 adults needs to hold some kind of a leadership position. In Jefferson County, 1 in every 12. And the source is the leadership demand report that Skylar is putting in the chat there. In Teton County, 1 in every 7 adults. Custer County, 1 in every 11. Gallatin County is one of our best. That's 1 in every 19, but I bet you it's quite a bit different down in West Yellowstone. So we have a very unique situation in Montana where we have a relatively high number of organizations that need leaders and a relatively low number of adults that can hold those positions. However, we struggle with leaders. However, it's not because people don't care. We struggle with leaders because we have a lot going on, and it's not because they're apathetic. This slide here is not the one that I wanted to have in there, but it shows you, this is from 2010. It shows you the change, the growth in nonprofit organizations, and it's pretty amazing to see. People are starting their nonprofits. If they don't see what they want to have going in their town, in their community, they will start something new. And the growth in nonprofits is pretty significant in Montana. People are, we think that people are not there to show up and to volunteer, but actually they're getting involved and they're getting engaged, but they're doing things that they want to do when they want to do it. So we know that how important those volunteers are. From the research, we know that ample, skilled, and engaged volunteers are one of the keys to rural community vitality. This is a little bit technical, but I wanted to share it with you because I think it's super intuitive. You can see this is kind of like a model of what a healthy economy looks like. The economic base, the ag business, that sort of thing is at the top, and at the very bottom, at the base of everything, the base of what holds all the other things up is a skilled, strong base of leaders that are skilled, trained, knowledgeable, able to think about the future. And right next to that, the second level that holds everything is human and social capital. People that have trust, that know and get along with each other. They have relationships around town. So I think I'm just sharing this with you so you can kind of see that like the work that you showing up tonight and the work that you're doing in your communities with volunteers and leaders is just essential to, it's like the base of a really strong economy. So I just want to pause and just ask if, does anybody have any questions or comments on what I've shared so far? Any thoughts on anything that I've shared, or any questions that you want to maybe ask a little bit more about? Well, I hope that's a good sign. I'll watch the chat as we go forward.
Hey, Tara.
Yeah.
Question is, do you think 2020 numbers will be any better, worse, same?
For what in particular?
Sorry, for the leadership on the data that you shared there. Number of leaders per county, leadership demand.
You know, looking at, if you look at the size of the generations, it's probably not going to be a whole lot better because the baby boomer generation is really big and they are retiring and they're stepping back. So we do have the Gen X generation, just a little bit smaller than baby boomers, and they're there. But the next two generations, millennials and the Gen Z, are pretty big, and they're stepping forward, but they're doing things a little bit differently. So those baby boomers volunteered a lot, so I think it might be a little bit of a challenge, but we'll see.
There's a couple other questions in
Yeah.
here in the chat box. Karen is asking, do you have more information about the growth of nonprofits that you can share?
Yeah, I can share some of that with you in the that I had meant to share. I don't know where it went. It's in the ether somewhere, but I'll share. I have a little bit more about that, but yeah, we do have some pretty high growth in our nonprofit sector in Montana. So and I can get it by county. So I'll share that with you in the next couple, probably maybe by the next week. I will get that for you. And then they're asking in Forsyth, how did you base your equations for each county regarding the community member numbers? Ooh, that would be from the census. So if you can see the leadership demand paper that Skylar posted in there, it shows you the calculations for all of that for each county in the whole state of Montana. It's pretty amazing. So Ben Winchester did that from us. He's from the University of Minnesota Extension. He's done it for North Dakota, South Dakota. He's doing it for a lot of different states. But it's looking at just adults because, you know, really sitting on a board is a legal responsibility, and young adults can do that, but most typically they don't. Okay, so I talked about volunteers, how important they are. And it's not just your town that's short leaders. We're going to transition now and talking about a really big conversation that we're having in Montana right now is who is moving into our towns and why. So I have two pieces of information I'm going to share with you. The first is from the census, and it shows you who people are moving, where they are moving to. And then we did a study on our own with Montana State University Extension on why people are moving. So the first piece is census data. And but both of these pieces, actually, hopefully everything that I'm sharing tonight shows with you how our towns are changing. They're not dying. People are moving in. It's pretty obvious in Ennis, Big Timber, West Yellowstone. It's not as obvious in Ekalaka, Miles City, in the Plains communities. But let's look at some of the census data, and we'll talk more about people moving in, moving out. So before we talk about that, we got to show you that people move really actually pretty frequently. It's pretty surprising. In Montana, households move, about half of households move every 5 years. And by households, I mean, you know, like a home, you move, whether it's from an apartment to a house or from one town to another. It's just your home moving from one place to another. We move pretty frequently, and we have for years. I've got some more census data here, and this, again, we're still looking at that older time frame because it's a little bit more reliable for our rural places. And we're not so much looking at the detail of it, but we're mostly looking at how people move by age. So it turns out that yes, some places are losing population, some places are gaining population, but there's variation by age group. It's not a mass exodus from rural places. Some people leave, some people move in, and it varies by age. So this migration pattern that I'm sharing with you is similar to almost every rural county in the whole country and every county that's designated rural in the whole country. So let's look here. On the left, we have this brain. So this is Phillips County. On the left, we have the brain drain, and that's people in their 20s. So 20 to 24, 25 to 29. That's people in their 20s leaving. Yes, they are leaving the county. Between 2000 and 2010, they left the county. And we talk about that, and we are worried, like there's not enough places for our rural, our folks, our young people. We worry about that. There's no jobs, there's no place for them. But let's look over here at the brain gain. This is the exciting thing that it does not get talked about. And I wonder if you can see this in your own community, the brain gain. And this is a pattern that we see in every rural community in the whole country, is that people are moving into rural designated counties when they're in their 30s and their 40s. And over here in Phillips County, you see the population overall. Yes, it is declining. But let's just give you another example. Here's Richland County, same thing. The people in their 20s are leaving. People in their 30s and 40s are moving in. Let's just really quickly look at Fergus County. So that's Lewistown. People in their 20s are leaving. People in their 30s and 40s are moving in. Let's look at the flip side. Here's Missoula, just for a little contrast so you can see the flip side. So here in Missoula County, people in their 20s are moving in, but people in their 30s are moving out. So why is this? So people are choosing to move into rural communities, and they have been for decades. This is a trend that's been going on since the 1970s. So why are people moving into our rural communities? That data was census data. Why are people moving in, even to our small towns? So this, I hope you can see that, you know, everybody's talking about, oh, everybody's moving from California to Missoula or Bozeman. But the fact is that people are moving to every part of our state, from inside the state and from outside the state. But why are they choosing these towns? Because this is really valuable information. We have some ideas, and we know what our neighbor did, like anecdotally, but what we did, we decided to do at Montana, is to do some research and find out. Does anybody have any questions or comments so far from what I've gone through on this piece of data? Not seeing anything. I'm going to watch. So I'm going to just get into our research that we did. So what we did, yes, no, well, I'm not sure which ones you're looking at, Big Timber, for your 2020, the last ones. This is 20 to 2010. So no, we're not looking at 2020. We can talk about it more later, but there was a lot of challenges with looking at rural data. They introduced some privacy measures with the 2020 census. And so we're still looking at 2010 a lot of the time until they're working on resolving some of those things. Okay, Rosebud is saying better salaries, safer in small communities. How does the census account for seasonal folks? You know what? I'm not sharing any data on seasonal folks, so that's a good question. Maybe we can look into that a little bit more. So okay, so Carrie, we're talking. When they did the 2020 census, they introduced some privacy measures that made the data for rural communities less reliable. So they didn't want to be able for if you have somebody in your community that it was easy to identify folks. So we can talk about that later. But I'm going to move on. So we're going to depart from census data, and we're going to start looking at the research that we did in Montana. So what we did was we replicated a study that was first done in Nebraska, and then in Minnesota they did it twice. And they're doing it again very soon. And the research was trying to find out. So the census tells us, yes, people are moving into our towns, but why? And they're moving at a very valuable time. They're moving in their 30s and 40s, their highest earning years. And knowing why people are moving in is really important because newcomers have always replaced those that die and move away. They're important for our workforce, for our schools. And we would not be able to do this mover study without the support of Montana Community Foundation. They funded the majority of the study. Montana Farm Bureau Foundation supported us as well. So we're super thankful for that. And here's our research team. And I have to show this because Saber Moore is on here and she helped with this research and she is leading up Reimagining Rural in Equalaca right now. So what we were trying to find out with our study in Montana is we wanted to know who is moving into Montana communities from anywhere. We weren't just looking for out-of-staters, anywhere. And half of our respondents moved from inside the state, half moved from outside the state. And we wanted to know, why are they choosing to move into these communities? And once they get there, what are they doing? So let's talk about the first big question. Who are these people? Who are moving into our communities? Because really understanding these folks is at the crux of some of the change that we're seeing in the towns that are really having a lot of influx and also in the towns that are having some depopulation. So we have a lot of ideas and a lot of rumors and, well, here's what my neighbor's doing, but here's some data for you from the Montana State University. So only a third of them said that their primary motivation was for a job. 2/3 moved for some other reason. And we're going to talk about that, non-financial. So they're moving for quality of life reasons, not necessarily for a job. 3/4 of the people that moved into our Montana communities have not lived there. 2/3 of the people that are moving in have not lived there before. Only about a third have lived there before. So what does this mean? For our small towns especially, it means they don't have a recognizable name. Like, it's not the Johnson kid going down and sure, you're going to hire that kid because you know he's a great kid because you went to school with his parents. Most of the people moving into our communities right now, they don't have that recognizable name. They don't know, like, if their roof has an issue, who are the contractors to call? If they have kids and they need to go out or they need somebody to watch their kid, they don't know the names of the babysitters. So who are the newcomers? Most of them have not lived there before. Another myth that we hear is, oh, they're all working remotely. Well, in our study, we asked them specifically, are you working remotely for somebody else? 9% said they work remotely for somebody else. 6% said their spouses do. Now, they may have a business that they work remotely for their business. A high percentage of them, almost a quarter, have a business. That's a huge number. And I think that's partly due to why there's higher incomes. 41% attended religious services. Now, I put this in here not for that piece of it, but for the 40% that said they do not attend religious services. Now, it used to be when you moved into a town, if you went to church, you'd go to church and they would hook you up. Here's the kids to babysit. Here's where you want to buy a house. Here's how you get into 4-H, all the things. But only about 40% are affiliated with some kind of religion at this point, according to our study. So how else are they getting connected? Really, for all of you in this Reimagining Rural, it's an opportunity because they are seeking to get involved, but they may not be affiliated. 78% have incomes over 50,000, so they have a lot of incomes. Now let's talk about why they're moving. And that, because that's always super interesting. Like, what was their motivation? The number one motivation, better access to the outdoors, a less congested place to live, a slower pace of life, a smaller community, a safer place to live. So what is missing from here? What's missing from this list of motivations for moving? It is a financial, there's no financial decisions here at all. Like the financial, we did ask them about financial things like a job or cheaper place to live or housing. And those were more in the middle and at the bottom of their priorities. So, so it's pretty interesting. And also I would propose to you that these reasons are similar to why those of us that have lived here for a long time, those reasons are similar to why we live here. So maybe we have more in common than we might have thought. our data showed that people are happy with their move. They rate their community really high, and they're using their amenities quite a bit. Okay, so now this is where it gets interesting, because many of you in your applications to do Reimagining Rural said that you were seeking ways to involve more people in the great things that you're doing. So here we have our study about newcomers, and we found that 55% of newcomers are moving into a community and they volunteered, sometimes or often. 37% said they attended a public meeting. 83% exchanged small favors with a neighbor. So these folks from our study shows that they are digging in, they're becoming a part of the community, they're making connections. But remember, most are not from here. Remember, we said only about a third lived in the town before. So they're unaffiliated. They weren't always part of the Lions. Also, they do want to get involved. So we're seeing that here. My question to you all is, are your interests aligned with their interests? Are their interests aligned with your interests? And remember the high rate of the growth of nonprofits. So they also are not afraid to maybe start something new. So from here, I'm going to leave our study. This is our study that we did. I'm going to leave that. I'll just summarize what we learned. We wanted to know who's moving into our communities, quantify some of the data that we're hearing, and that's what we have here. So I have a really great baseline, and we hope to do this study every 5 years. If there's any questions, I would take those. Yep, so Big Timber's asking about the study. Yep, we sent it out in 2021. We sent 9,000 out across the whole state of Montana. And we sent half to urban in quotes. So, the big 7, the big communities, the big counties. And we sent half to those and half to rural places. So it was paper pencil survey. It was administered by the Helps Lab at Montana State University, which is the university's survey center. So statistically significant is what we found. All right, we're coming to the end here. So a lot of you wanted to know, where are the volunteers? So they're not the usual suspects. The volunteers are people who have lived in your town a long time but have never been invited to the table. Maybe they're people that don't think they're leadership material, or they're not worthy. They're not able to contribute. Maybe they're younger, because we know that older volunteers are stepping back. Maybe they're new residents. So they might be a different background. Whoever they are, it's not your usual suspects. And whatever they're bringing to the table, it's going to be different than the previous volunteers. And so new people is going to require a new approach. And the question that we have is, why are people getting involved? And what we found from some of the research that we looked at was they're getting involved for a lot of reasons: making new friends, helping others, achieving a goal, sense of well-being and belonging. Huge right now. People are lonely. I just want to recap what I've covered tonight for you, and kind of turn it around and look at, well, what does this mean? What can we do? So just to recap, we love our towns. Good things are happening thanks to these amazing volunteers. But the volunteers are stretched. They're stretched thin. It's not just your town that's short on volunteers. And people are moving to all parts of the state. They're not just moving to the big towns. And we love the same things about our communities. And many of these new volunteers are unaffiliated and they want to get involved. So I'll leave you 3 things to consider moving forward. I ask you to consider looking beyond the same 10 people. So a lot of times we just do what's comfortable. It's easy to call on your ride or die, your people that know how we've done it before, your folks that you've known for a long time. But I propose to you that we have a lot of new people. We have a lot of longtime residents who haven't been involved. And lots of things have changed recently. I mean, the world is at our fingertips. There's different ways of communicating than ever before. Our economy has changed so much. There's a different generation stepping forward. People have different, the whole world has changed. And so let's get out of our comfort zone, think of just stretch ourselves a little bit to seek out those new people and then be open to those new ideas. The next idea that I have for you is to offer them, once you've found these folks, offer them a seat at the table, invite them to have a seat at the table. They might have never had that opportunity because maybe they're not your typical leader type, or they've never been invited. Give them enough information to make sure that they're able to contribute. Spend time with them to show them how things work so that they stay at the table. Because once you've found them, got them to come on board, you want to retain them. And remember that people want to get involved for a range of reasons. It might vary. So once you get them, try to keep them too. Help them to feel like they matter by listening and working hard to be open to those new ideas. See the community through a different perspective. Maybe you need to take a risk. And the final thing is, this is really hard. It's very uncomfortable, but a quote from Ted Lasso is, "Be curious, not judgmental." So with new people are going to come new ideas. So before you have that immediate, like, no, that's not how we do it here, or before you say no or get skeptical, maybe take a minute, take a beat to get curious. What if? What else could we do? How could we make that happen? What next? Just kind of stretching and being open to new ideas and thinking. Because I'm going to leave this. I love this quote so much. And Becky McRae and Deb Brown are these really great speakers. They're speaking next time on Reimagining Rural. And they say that small towns that are open to new ideas will be the best positioned to thrive no matter what changes comes their way. And certainly in Montana, we have a lot of change coming our way. So I want to say thank you again. Support for this program came from the Montana Community Foundation and also the Montana Department of Commerce, and we're just really thankful for that. So thank you. For any questions or comments before I'm going to turn it over. I've gone way over time. I'm so sorry. We kind of got caught up in some questions. Yeah.
Nope, that's okay. So it's 6:43. So we're gonna transition to hear from Teresa and Roundup because they have a very compelling, intriguing story.
Yes.
So you have I'm sure that this has perked your thought process. Tara's conversation and presentation has probably perked a lot of our thoughts or comments or questions. So hold on to those, let them percolate, we'll give you an opportunity to talk in your community, think about that. And when we come back all together to close up, we will have more time probably to take some questions. So we're gonna turn it over to Teresa and let her tell us all about what the great things that are happening in Roundup. And we'll come back. Hold your thoughts, hold your questions on what Tara said, write them down if you're like me because you can't remember them anymore. And we'll come back and share. So thank you, Tara.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
I took over your job. So without further ado, we're gonna turn this over to Teresa Dumet, who is our volunteer extraordinaire out of Roundup.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Teresa Dumet. I am a co-chair and founding member of Roundup Community Partners, and I'm really excited to be here to share some of the things that are going on in Roundup. Like Tara said, there are a lot of volunteer organizations in our community. Some are partnered with us, and some we just get inspiration from. So there's a lot of things going on. What I'd like to start with is just share who we are, why we were founded, and how we came together. So like you, we're volunteers that care about our community and that want to see it revitalized. Our mayor and a city councilwoman were interested in, I'll have a slide here that shows a timeline. We were interested in applying to the Montana Main Street program. And so the city councilwoman came around, Linda Yant's her name, and she reached out to area businesses, the county commissioners, just public citizens, anyone that may be interested in supporting this effort to apply to the Montana Main Street program to become an affiliate member, to access their grant programs, to access their support and resources. In January 15, we met with the Main Street program director at the time, and we decided, let's do it. There was a lot of diverse support for the effort, and so we became the grassroots organization that supported the city's application to the Main Street program. We met, our first meeting was in February of 2015, and we were working on the application in partnership with the city. And in that meantime, we reached out to our community foundation for fiscal sponsorship so that we would be considered a nonprofit. And then by February of 16, we became an affiliate member. The city of Roundup became an affiliate member of our Montana Main Street program. So that was our first action forward as a group. But while we were working on that application in that first year, I hosted, or I facilitated 2 meetings that were about an hour long, where we just brainstormed. All the community partners came together and we just brainstormed about what is special about our community, what do we want to preserve, what are our goals, and we used these ideas and input as the founding documents for Roundup Community Partners and to create a unified vision. So we developed our mission statement, a logo, our slogan, organizational values, to just sort of create a community vision. We also decided that we wanted to support the city and the county's planning documents and their efforts in planning the growth in our community. We wanted to host community coffees. Tara was one of our first guest speakers at our community coffee when we were looking at should we move forward with the Central School revitalization project. And I'll tell you more about that in a little bit. But these community coffees helped us have experts come into our community that had done what we were considering doing, asking questions and sort of deciding if we wanted to move that project forward and what would be our first steps. Then we wanted to also support any kind of revitalization efforts that were intentional, that would help preserve what's special about our community. We also wanted to support information sharing within the community, promote area events, support any historic preservation projects, because we felt like our historic structures held a lot of our community character. And then we wanted to host red ribbon cutting ceremonies with new businesses in collaboration with our city, our county, and our chamber. So we did this as partners. And we're still doing that to current day. One of the things that came out of our planning brainstorming sessions that I was most excited about was, we were like, no one could really tell us how to preserve what's special about our community, but we thought, well, we can't preserve it if we don't know what it is. So as a group, we identified characteristics and traits that we loved about Roundup and that we wanted to preserve and protect. And this was the list that came out of that. And I was really touched by this list, and it felt very authentic. And that was a fun result that came out of those conversations. And it's the foundation of our organization. Partners. So some of our partners are really diverse. My husband and I moved to Roundup 12 years ago, and we'd lived in 19 different rural communities across the United States. And we fell in love with the people here and this countryside and what Montana's lifestyle was. And I wanted to help. As a professional, I work full time, but I also wanted to volunteer because, as Tara said, volunteers are what make things happen in rural communities. But I wanted to invest my volunteer time where I knew it would be successful. And when our city councilwoman Yount came to us, and I saw all these partners around the table, our mayor, our city councilwoman, a county commissioner, our community foundation was represented, our museum, our newspaper. We had so many people at the table and so many resources and support that I said, I feel like that this is a worthwhile investment of my energy and volunteer efforts. And that's why I invested, was because of our diverse partners, because I just felt like we'd be successful because of them. That was one thing that I feel like is why partnerships are valuable. I also feel like lots of different projects are going on, and if you get to hear from your partners what they're working on, there's a snowball effect, a sort of a cascade effect that inspires you, and it instills hope. And it makes you feel like, okay, even if I'm working on this with one or two other people, or even by myself, there's this momentum in the community that makes you want to keep going because you're inspired by others' actions. So that's one of the reasons, another reason that I think partners are important. And then one other example of a partnership that I really valued was our community foundation. So I've helped found and run a nonprofit, and I never really wanted to do that again, but I know the value of having nonprofit status. And so when I found out that our community foundation, the Muscle Shoal Valley Community Foundation, allowed fiscal sponsorship for area organizations that were trying to better our community, we applied to them, and they accepted us as fiscal sponsors. So for 4% of our income, we they manage all of our nonprofit administration and do our taxes and that kind of stuff. And so they are just an amazing partner for us to support us in our efforts. Let's see. And then when I started as a co-chair of RCP, I was volunteering with Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, and they had a past director that shared a quote that I loved. For any organization to remain relevant and effective, it must regularly examine why it exists, where it is headed, and whether it has fully achieved its mission. And I said, how can we do that as a group? And so we started this 7 years ago. And in December, as a holiday celebration, instead of having our December meeting, we come together, have a potluck, and we invite all the community organizations and leaders and say, let's share with each other what we've done this year, what we've accomplished, and what our goals are for next year. And that has been such an inspiring thing to do, especially around the holidays. It really connects us, but it also inspires us because we can look at, even during COVID, how much that we got done as a community. So that's a neat thing that I really am proud of, and I feel it helps share the light from the partners that we have. And then Tara asked me to talk about barriers. I think you guys can relate with all of these. As Tara said in her presentation, volunteers drive projects in rural communities. And since most of our volunteers are working full time, a lot of projects take a lot longer than we'd like them to take because we have a job. So it takes time to do a volunteer driven project. Planning takes time. We spent 5 years of our founding years supporting city and county planning efforts. That is for people that like to do and see change happen fast. That was a really hard thing to be patient about, but I really value the benefits of planning, and a lot of our members do. So we worked on that. So, but it takes time. And then funds to pay for the improvement. You're all volunteers. You have all these great ideas, and how are we going to pay for it? So you have to be imaginative and have a lot of partners that support that. This is a picture of one of our red ribbon cutting ceremonies. Here we have the mayor. We have some business owners and employees, the chamber president, or one of our county commissioners, and another RCP co-chair. So this is an example of our partners that help us keep that effort going. Okay, next steps in planning. Just to share a little bit more about planning and why it's valuable. for Roundup, what I've seen, planning creates a unified community vision. And I discussed that a little bit before, but it also, as a development specialist, it creates the documents that support your grant applications and enables access to grant funds that for your improvement projects. So to me, planning was the foundation for those efforts. Planning documents also show that your community and your leaders have assessed and prioritized the needs that you have, and they've done it as a community. And those documents show that you've done your research and your due diligence, and that there's community support and input on those priorities. So planning is not a lot of fun, because of the timing that it takes, but it is a lot of fun. We're actually redoing our growth policy, and it was really neat to be in that community conversation and hear all the ideas and see the support. Tara's has a couple of documents that if you're interested in more of the founding documents for RCP, or you're interested in what planning documents we did create as a community, there's a list of those with the timelines that we got those accomplished. Okay, what have we done? Key accomplishments. As I said earlier, 5 years of planning with our city, our county, and the community. This slide here on the right shows the plan that I most love. It's our downtown master plan. It assessed the current situations, gathered input and ideas, and consolidated those ideas into action steps. This page shows a concept sketch of something that was identified as a need in the community. We did not have a place where people could go to gather information about what there is to do in Roundup. And so this was the idea in our planning document in a concept sketch. So remember that for a couple slides down the road here. The next thing we did was we revitalized this brochure. We had a group of folks that got together, our Arts and Culture Committee, about 13 years ago. And they established this Riverwalk Heritage Trail brochure that has a beautiful story of natural heritage of our community. And it's associated, it has numbers down on our Riverwalk. Well, we had a big flood that I'm sure you guys have all heard about. It washed everything away. And the brochure was lost and all the map was lost. And so one of our first efforts that I helped lead with the community partners was to revitalize this brochure. And we partnered with the chamber to get a QR code so that it's available electronically. And then 3 other women and I worked on this Roundup historical walk. We found out that 400,000 people pass through Roundup and don't stop because they don't know that there's anything to do here. And a lot of those folks are interested in the history, Western history of our community. So we created this walking tour that also has a QR code that's housed on our chamber website. And it tells a little bit about the different buildings and the history of our community. Let's see, another very unfun accomplishment that I was really happy to have done, and we did this in partnership with the city, is we reviewed and revised zoning ordinances so that they were in compliance with our master plan. So the example of this that is really critical is that there were a lot of people that felt like we needed to be able to revitalize our downtown buildings so that we had residential space upstairs and commercial space downstairs, and that wasn't allowed in our zoning ordinances previously, and now it is. So that's another piece that's critical, and it's slow and not fun because you have to get through the governmental process, but it was a wonderful thing to have done. And then so we had a Wells Fargo building here for years and years. And when corporate Wells Fargo decided to leave some rural communities, we were left with this building vacant for a couple of years. And I had the pleasure of working professionally with the regional vice president of Wells Fargo. And she really took that personally that they had left a lot of vacant buildings in rural America. And her idea was to use Roundup as an example of if there was a community need that could be fulfilled then she wanted to see how we could donate. They could donate that building to the community. So I facilitated, I think, 4 or 5 community meetings with leaders and identified what needs that building could fulfill. And that Wells Fargo ended up donating this $800,000 piece of property to our community for free. And our school superintendent, our school district superintendent's office is housed here. Our DES office is housed here, and it provides a much needed public meeting space as well. So that was a wonderful project to work on and get completed. And then we got a grant from AARP, and we were able to put 20 benches along Main Street and 2 picnic tables. And you'll see a little bit about that more in a few minutes later. Another key accomplishment, and this speaks to a lot of what Tara was talking about. We had a wonderful Morgan Belleville, if anyone knows him. He is the owner of the Back Porch, a wonderful business, and the Big Sky Motel. He grew up in Roundup. He graduated, went away, had a professional life for years and years, luckily for us, in the marketing field. And he decided to come back home and own his family's motel and start a restaurant and use his marketing skills as a volunteer to help create Roundup's first branding plan. So we hosted a community coffee. We gathered input from the community. Over 100 people shared stories about Roundup and what they loved about Roundup. And Morgan took this wonderful input and created this branding plan for us. Will be available at a link that I will share with you if you're interested in it. It holds our story, our values, our community, and defines that, our language, what imagery you would use to market it, a logo, a beautiful logo that he created for Roundup, and the fonts and colors that embody what we would use in our marketing material to have that unified vision. Projects that are in process. Oh my goodness, this is the one I am most excited about. And if you remember back to that Main Street Master Plan concept sketch, this is how that concept sketch came into fruition when the community gave their input and support. So we are hosting an open house for Roundup's first Welcome Plaza and on April the 20th. And we took this lot that was a vacant, overgrown lot right on our busiest corner. This is the blinking light in Roundup, if anybody's familiar with it. And we this was a Reimagining Rural project that started with the seed funds that the Montana Community Foundation at Reimagining Rural offered. And we started this as a really small idea, and it grew into a bear. And I have just been riding this wild horse and just am so proud of it that I think we have 40 different partners in the community that supported this project. And there's going to have, you can see the picnic tables and benches. There's Roundup's right back here. It's the view from Main Street is Roundup's first Main Street public bathrooms. And then this is going to be our visitor information kiosk. The lettering Roundup is going to go across here using our branding plan logo. And then we're going to have informational panels here. And this is going to hold brochure racks. So this is a project that's in process and almost complete. And then Morgan is also working on a wayfinding project for us. And that is a project that he's using his brand book, and he's developing banners and signage for Main Street that directs people towards our Riverwalk, our fairgrounds, and area attractions and area amenities, using all those items in our branding plan. So it has that Western feel that's important to us. And then we're also working on supporting what I call the right developers that also, and what I mean by right is the ones that are intentionally developing and preserving our historic buildings. One of those such partners is the Central School Project and the developer that's working on that. I'm very grateful to have him in our community and his vision. We started this project in 2015, you guys, and it's supposed to be completed by December of this year. This building housed our elementary students for over 100 years. And when they built the new school, they were looking at demolishing it. So there's a group of us that just didn't want that to happen. And it's going to be help us address the housing needs and maybe a little bit of commercial. So it's a very exciting project for us and hopefully an exciting time to have it done. Okay, here's the resources that I was talking about. Here's a link to the Montana Main Street program if you're interested in their program. They developed a video with Lewistown and Roundup about the benefits of the Main Street program. This is a link to take you there. Here's a link to the 2 brochures that I mentioned. And then Roundup established the first rural investment cooperative in Montana state history. And we did this in order to support our central school project. And this is a video talking about that Montana Cooperative Development Corporation did for us. And then there's a link to on our Facebook page of the Wells Fargo tour if you'd like to look at that. Here's a link to our Facebook page that shows how we support and promote our area events and thank our partners on the Welcome Plaza project. And then here's a link to our brand book and the assets that came out of that effort. And then here's a link to the city planning documents. And then these are the 2 files that I had mentioned that if you want more information about the founding documents for RCP or the community accomplishments that we summarize at the end of the year, that is in that document. So thank you guys for your attention and time and being here. It's a wonderful program. I'm really thankful to the Reimagining Rural team for their support and inspiration, especially with our Welcome Plaza project. We would have never gotten it started without your support. And thank you for inviting me to share Roundup's journey so far. And I'll open the floor to questions if anybody has any.
Sounds good. Can we just pay you to move to Big Timber and do all this for us? That's what I would say. Yeah, told you they were going to be good. Told you Roundup is on a winning streak here. We have about 3 minutes to kind of get, if we can keep us back on track. Does anybody have any questions for Teresa? You can put them in the chat box or unmute real quick and ask away. If not, or if you're thinking about that and gonna be typing here quickly, we will make sure that you have access to those links and those resources that Teresa shared. Fantastic story of what is possible when you get folks together and start dreaming big for your community and making that investment. So again, just a couple more minutes. Oh, okay. Carrie Lewis, where did the funds for Carnival and Roundup come from? Any funding for wayfinding project and budget?
I'm sorry, what carnival? The carnival that we have at the 4th of July?
Must be.
Let me see if I can get the chat. So the carnival is part of Roundup Independence Day extravaganza, and we do not pay at all. They are a wonderful partner. Our agreement, I'm a volunteer and I have a small contract with RIDE. And what we do is we have a partnership with them and an agreement where it says once they make this amount of money, then a certain percent comes to RIDE. Otherwise, they take all the profit and there's no cost to our community or our event. And then, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble seeing the question.
Next question is how are you putting the old Wells Fargo bank to use? Forsyth as a Wells Fargo building. That's from Forsyth.
Okay, so our school superintendent's office, the administrative offices are there. Our DES office is housed there, and we have a public meeting space there.
Jefferson County has added, we have many historical buildings that are unused. I would like to learn more about how you got this done to convert your old school. That might be
Well,
Well, that's a long story. Tara could probably speak to that. We have a developer, Randy Hafer, in High Plains Architects. He is really dedicated. Like his legacy, he feels, is to preserve historical structures that embody Roundup's heritage. And we're lucky to have him as a partner. And we got the school he purchased the property from the school, and he has a funding strategy to fund that. But it's an investment. It's an investment effort by a developer.
I think that there's probably a lot of folks who'd want to learn more about historical buildings. So I think that is probably something I don't think it matters what small town you go to, is historic buildings downtown that are unoccupied, and what do we do with those? So let's put that as, that's great topic. Let's put it to the side. I'm trying to keep on track so y'all have some time to converse. Last question. What was the budget for the wayfinding project, and where did the funds come from?
The wayfinding project, that's Morgan's project, but I do know we applied for the Montana Main Street program, had an impact grant, and we got $50,000 from that grant or that partnership to support that. And then we had to have a 10% match that Roundup Community Partners and a local individual provided the local match.
Got it. I think Carrie Lewis Pet Bank is working on same kind of projects. So we will also make it a point. You're going to see this a little bit later in the presentation when we all come back. But you're going to see ways to we switched our Reimagining Rural Facebook page. So that might be a place where we can share more information as well. So please, when we get to the end of all of this, there's a QR code, and we'll make sure we share that because I think that's something, these are topics there's a lot of communities are working on. So thank you very much, Teresa, for joining us tonight and sharing what is happening with Roundup. Without a doubt, huge success is happening in the small town of Roundup. And if you ever get a chance, drive through, because it's neat things are going on there. So we just very much appreciate you coming and speaking with us tonight. So
thank you, guys.
Thank you. So I'm gonna attempt to share my screen again really quick. Okay. So now is the time of the presentation, or time for the evening, that you're gonna have your local conversations. So this topic came up when we were talking with our local facilitators, and something that I said, don't worry, we'll put this up so you all get to see it. So this is a little bit of some ground rules, so to speak, about the local conversations you're going to have here in a minute. Reimagining Rural believes positive, thoughtful growth comes from honest, meaningful conversations where all ideas and perspectives are considered. So here's some things to think about when you move into your conversations. Take space and make space. And what we mean by that is, if you have some of us have a tendency to share and we want to talk. And if that's you, please consider taking a little bit of a pause and allowing other folks who don't speak as much, make some space for those folks to speak up. And if you're one of those folks who kind of sits back and wants to just watch and observe, take a risk and jump into the conversation. No idea is too bonkers. This is an opportunity to dream big. Talk about these big ideas that you might be scared to otherwise. And with that, conflict may arise. So address the idea, not the person. We're all here to have a conversation about the future of our communities. Diversity and perspective are huge. Listen to understand, not to respond or judge. Be curious. This is your town. Speak from your heart and use I statements. We all have a tendency to do this. We use anecdotal stuff, or so-and-so said this, or so-and-so told me that. So speak from your heart, use I statements, share your own experiences. Above all, don't be scared to think big for your little town. You're worth it. You deserve it. So with that, here are those guidelines again. Take space, make space. You can see that in the kind of the red. And then here are some guiding questions. So you have response cards. Your local facilitators have these. And we need you to answer the response card questions. You can either do that on the paper and hand it back into your facilitator, or you can link to the QR code that is here on this page. There are 3 questions. Now, if you get stuck on these questions, we've also shared some other kind of conversation guiding questions. So here's some things that might help stimulate your local conversation if you need it. I'm inspired to rethink the narrative about my town by the ideas from the talks that really hit home are: we can collaborate to spread the good by the work our community can reasonably get done is, if we have extra funds, the best investment for kickstarting positive change is. Because as we mentioned when we first started, Montana Community Foundation is going to make available some small grants to our Reimagining Rural communities. So that's something you might want to be thinking about. So with that, we are going to pause this whole statewide gathering 7:16. So we're going to come back at 7:45-ish. That gives you about a half an hour. We'll just stay on here and mute ourselves and keep the video going, and we'll call you all back in about 30 minutes. So good luck with your local conversations. We'll turn it over to your local facilitator now. Group. So it's now 7:50. We're going to come back and regroup. And if you have a moment to, your facilitator or whomever can share some memorable items from your conversation in the chat box. It looks like Forsyth has done that. We'll just share some of these. Forsyth's, wow, the Wells Fargo donated the building and Roundup, the number of RCP partnerships, the visitor kiosk, wayfinding signs, coffee talk sound awesome. The number of people that graduated and moved back to Forsyth with businesses, profitable businesses transferring owners. Lima and Dell said, affordable housing, rental opportunities, maintain school, recruit new families, take advantage of our history. Cut Bank, wowed by Roundup and their partnerships, getting the right players on board. Yes, would totally agree. Win it. Use grant funding for branding packet and billboards to let drive-by people know what's here. Could be a great way to engage business owners, town council, community center, advertise fiber optic internet, and win it as incentive for young people to move back, remove barriers, talk with more community members to get houses open for rent, build on existing lots, walking, biking trails on the rims above win it, light up the W above win it, Main Street decor beautification. West Yellowstone, impressed by Roundup, preservation, welcome new coming, I can't talk, downtown beautification, forward progression. I'm missing. So if you get a moment, you can go ahead and share some thoughts or comments in the chat box. Oh, goodness gracious. Let's see. Let's go back up. Concerns, Jefferson County, this Boulder concerns. I gotta get my thing back up. Concerns were raised about being more welcoming to new residents. We loved what Roundup has accomplished. Forsyth, what rang true: benches, drinking fountains, walking paths, trails on the dike, disc golf, skate parks by the Pearl Jam, dude. Pickleball, tennis, population bottomed out, people moving in. Wow, people aren't moving for jobs. People are coming back older, own businesses, 25% Roundup. Unity and partnerships, buy-in, coordination, and commitment. Huge, Carrie Lewis, huge number of new residents present tonight, moved here in the last 3 years, involved and looking to get involved. That's awesome. Big Timber, developing a vision, how to aggregate. Oops, I lost that one. I'm going to turn this back up to developing a vision, how to aggregate and connect our already developed groups in town to create synergy and proficiency, how to expand our volunteer base, develop a cohesive goal and vision for Big Timber, prioritize our desires to limit scope creep. So we've got about 5 minutes left. You can go ahead and keep posting stuff in the chat box.
Did you see Jackie Rump from Miles City? Rang true, barriers, volunteering to make friends, 5 reasons. Desire to support historic buildings. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, that's what happens a lot of times when we're doing Reimagining Rural is sometimes topics come up that are kind of hot topics that everybody seems to be interested in learning more or dealing with or whatever. And I'm thinking that the historic building ones kind of sounds like it is.
Yeah.
That's coming up, this conversation.
Yeah.
So we'll keep working on that. Sometimes what we do is we'll do a spinoff and just do a one-off on specific topics or figure out ways to address that further down the road. Let's see. So for tonight's evenings, is there anything else that folks have to share? We got just is somebody wanting to talk? Oh, Saber wants to talk about their historic buildings.
Yeah.
Oh, she says, I can talk. You don't want to talk right now. I can talk about historic buildings.
Yeah, if you want somebody to do a mini class on that, I got you.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Nice.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, no, just in the future. Yeah, we're just gonna stay on for a whole nother hour so you can talk about that. Aces can too. Yes, awesome. Yeah, because I think, like I said, it seems like every community we go to or we talk to has issues with their downtown and their historic buildings. Oh,
Jennifer, of all the contacts I get from people that are interested in helping historic building preservation and redevelopment is the biggest thing that people call me about. So I'd love to participate in that.
heck, that is awesome. We're gonna put that in the parking lot and circle back to it. Let's team up. Has the new tourism grant come up? It is coming from Ekalaka.
Yeah, this is
Sarah?
Saber again, the one that was released, the $2.75 million. Did that come up tonight?
No.
No. Okay, well let's put that in parking lot for next
Okay.
session because it's huge. And it could be huge for rural communities for sure. It's a lot of money, it's really daunting, but I think there are ways that we can really get around this conversation about it.
Yeah, that's
And I
great.
know they want to see Eastern Montana and rural
yeah.
Montana really hop on board. So that'd be cool to come out of this conversation.
Great. That would be really great. Yeah, I know it's hard to get applications from rural communities and especially central and eastern Montana. So yeah, if we can help in any way, that would be really great.
And Tara, they've changed that program. It's not I just talked to Michelle about this. It's not a one and done project anymore. It's like a
Nice.
longer term. So it'd be really curious and it'd be good to educate people about the shift with the new House bill.
Okay, great. Yep. I think I've connected with her, Michelle, at the state. Yes. Great. I love it. We did that last year. We did a series of focus conversations on really hot topics, and it was really helpful. It really helped a lot of people move things along. Okay, so we'll share that. We can probably share something about that tomorrow, as far as a link and that sort of thing. So yeah. And Carrie Lewis brought up a really great point. We have, I'll just tell you about it. We have a leadership mini series. So I think it's every Tuesday for 20 minutes. I think it's like at 8:30 in the morning. And so it's little snippets of leadership topics. I think they're working on conflict, which is, it's something that we can all learn a lot about. And so that starts on Tuesday. So we'll share something about that in our Facebook group. Do you want to? Oh yeah, we have that. So if you can turn your phone onto this Facebook QR code, we would love to have you join our Facebook group. That's where we share a lot. We hear about grants and really cool projects, success stories that are happening, and we would love to have you as part of that so we can share it with you. You might have been part of our private Facebook group, but we are changing it because nobody could share out, and it was very frustrating. So with our new group, you can share to all your friends of all the good things that we're going to share. Okay.
So that's right. If you get a chance, go to Facebook. There's the QR code. If you are technological advanced and can use QR codes, it's right there. That will take you to the Facebook page. Couple reminders. It is 8 p.m. And so we want to respect your time and end as much on time as possible. So couple quick reminders, please complete the response card either on the actual paper copy or the electronically via the QR code. What's coming up in the next session is Becky and Deb from Save Your Town. They're a returning presenter. We got lots of positive feedback when we had these ladies speak the first go around. So they will be February 12th, and we'll hear from another local community in Montana that is doing great things. And Becky and Deb really share their just do it, dive in, jump in philosophy on community work. And it's just a great approach because sometimes we get really bogged down in having meetings and things. So very fresh, very different approach. Want to thank Tara for sharing the newcomers information with us. When we've had Ben Winchester speak, he just blows our mind with how it changes our perspective on our small towns. And thank you to Teresa from Dumit from Roundup and sharing what's happening in Roundup. It's a great success story. They also have a wonderful Facebook page that you can find. We'll share that again on our Facebook group. So you can follow along to see the progress that Roundup is making. So again, we'll stay on for a few more minutes and leave the chat box open if you've got some comments that you want to share before we turn off the Zoom meeting tonight. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you to the local hosts and facilitators for taking on that task. And we will see you for our second session, February 12th. Again, with the ladies from Save Your Town and another community success story. And we'll also be working on this, on the concept of the historic downtown buildings. So with that, thanks for joining us. Thanks for stopping by and sharing our passion for Montana small towns. And we'll see you on February 12th.